Good morning, my friends. Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Let us turn our minds to Star Wars Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back. I'm thinking of the second reel, perhaps the first reel, when Luke has had his misadventure with the ice creature on Ice Planet Hoth. He survived, but just barely. Han rescues him, and he prevents Luke from succumbing to hypothermia by killing his own Taun, disemboweling the creature, and tucking Luke inside. Now, as a science geek, love that. That's really cool. As a vegan, it's pretty horrifying. Not really happy with the exploitation of the Tauns, turning them into slaves, no less the murder of the Taun. But let me take off my vegan hat and put my sci-fi hat back on. Actually, I'm going to take off my sci-fi hat and put my historian hat on. In the American Old West, there have been many misadventures between the cavalry and the indigenous Americans. One of the most notable is the massacre at Little Bighorn. Now, of course, any student of American history will conclude, yeah, we got what we had coming to us. But you still got to feel bad for the individual participants who typically were drafted from the poor, and they were looking for basically just a way to have food, clothing, and hopefully a career. They weren't expecting to be slaughtered horribly for an obscure reason that really none of them knew beyond propaganda. A tale is told of one member of the cavalry in utter panic who, like Han Solo, shot his horse, disemboweled his horse, and was attempting to crawl into his horse's warm carcass when the indigenous Americans found him, pulled him out, and dispatched him. So the parallel between the man trying to hide in the carcass of his horse and Han tucking Luke into the abdominal cavity of the Tauntaun strikes me as a vivid parallel. Now, what's the spiritual application of this? When we look at the poor bastard at the Battle of Little Bighorn trying to hide in the abdominal cavity of his own horse, we see a typical human trait in the general, not the literal. And the general is that humans tend to hide from that which they feel is horrific and unmanageable. And there's many ways we hide. We hide through illicit behaviors, excessive behaviors. We might hide through recreational drug use or alcohol use, or obsessing over sex, or obsessing over fitness, or obsessing over entertainment. We typically try to distract ourselves from that which we feel is unmanageable. And that brings in a phrase you hear me use frequently, spiritual materialism. Many people on the spiritual path or the quasi-spiritual path do the same thing. They try to hide from what appears to be the horrors of unmanageable reality. One of the ways many contemplatives hide is by trying to lose themselves in the ping of no thought, trying to lose themselves in perfect concentration, trying to lose themselves in so-called deep trance experiences of bliss or joy or contentment, or tranquility, or vast openness, or vast awareness, or non-graspability. And those things can provide temporary, momentary relief from our physical discomfort and our emotional discomfort. However, they can't last forever. Imagine, if you will, a cat chasing a mouse, and the mouse runs through a mouse hole into safety. But the cat is hungry, and so he just sits there in front of the mouse hole. Eventually, when the mouse ventures out, the cat's waiting for it and will pounce and make a meal of our little friend. Likewise, although we might temporarily hide in illicit pleasures, in G-rated pleasures, in recreational distractions, in pseudo-spiritual distractions, it will not stop our stressors from doing what they do. You'll notice I only went to 3. The 4th one is spontaneous awareness, and that really can help us. It does not obscure the horrors of the present moment. It does the opposite. It helps us to explore the present moment. Remember, we do 3 things. We notice, we relax, and we flow. And sometimes relaxing is very simple. Sometimes it's a bit more complex, as we see in the Mahasatipatthana Sutta. But whether we use simple relaxation methods or complex, that's how we dance with what is unearthed in our mindfulness of the present moment. So, for instance, if we're a student of Buddhism and we're studying the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, we're aware of the refrains. In the refrains, we have the core practices of noticing and relaxing, as well as exploring interdependence, as well as exploring impermanence. We can also, and that helps us to process what's going on in the present moment. Not avoid it, but process it. We can explore in greater detail the 5 hindrances. That could be exactly what we were trying to hide from, or our reaction to what we find stressful. Our 5 hindrances of greed, hate, fatigue, agitation, and fear. We can explore the 5 aggregates of mood, story, label, evaluation, and raw sense contact. And these can help us process whatever's unearthed in the present moment. These things are invaluable tools. We can dive deeper into the present moment by exploring the 6 sense spheres. We can even find ways to explore the 7 enlightenment factors of mindfulness, curiosity, energy, joy, tranquility, collectedness, and balance within the context of whatever stressful situation we're in. Those 7 positive things do not come from ignoring the present moment, but dancing with the present moment in a very skillful way. So let us not be like the poor bastard at the Battle of Little Bighorn who tried to hide in the still warm guts of his own horse. Rather, let's face the present moment with vulnerability, playfulness, and courage. You and yours be happy and healthy. Bye-bye now.